I know I wasn't technically alone in the story, but it's still terrifying. I was babysitting up in the mountains on the coast, maybe a 30-minute drive from the nearest town. The parents had hired me to watch their 2 kids for the night, and since it was a Friday, they were staying out a little later than usual. It was around 9 p.m., and they were supposed to be back in an hour or so. I just put the kids to bed. 2 girls, ages 6 and 8. Pretty easygoing for the most part. I was downstairs alone, flipping through the channels, trying to pass the time. The house was one of those older, wooden ones that creaked with every gust of wind. Being out in the middle of nowhere, it was pitch black outside, and the only thing breaking up the darkness was the faint glow from the old TV. But every so often, the screen would flicker with static. At first I figured it was just bad reception, but the longer it went on, the more it got under my skin. And every few minutes, some staticky buzz would break through, each time lasting a little longer. To be honest, it was starting to scare the shit out of me. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid. But then, something happened that I can't explain. I glanced up from the TV and looked out the window across the room. At first I did not see anything unusual, just the usual trees and empty roads beyond. But then I noticed something in the reflection. It was faint, but clear enough that I could make it out. A figure standing behind the couch. And it looked like a man, but not quite right. He was unnaturally thin, like a tin man. He wasn't moving, just standing there, staring in my direction. My heart stopped, and without thinking, I snapped my head around to look behind me. There was nothing there, and I stood up, adrenaline flooding my veins. I looked back at the window, and the figure in the reflection was gone. But that image of him standing so close, just a few feet behind me, stuck in my head. I didn't know what to do. Every part of me wanted to run, but I couldn't leave the kids alone. Instead, I grabbed my stuff and bolted upstairs. I sat on the floor in the hallway outside the kids' room, just listening. The house was dead quiet except for the occasional creak. I don't know why, but being near the kids calmed me down a bit. I figured if something was in the house, at least I wasn't alone. And eventually, I heard the parents pull into the driveway. I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me. I gave them a quick rundown, thanked them for the night, and got out of there as fast as I could. As I was pulling out of the driveway in my beat-up Ford Laser, I looked up at the house one last time. The kids' bedroom window was lit up, and standing there, looking down at me, was the same figure I'd seen in the reflection earlier. Thin, metallic looking, with his hand raised as if it was waving goodbye. I flirted out of there. I don't know what I saw that night, and honestly, I don't want to. I never told the parents. Hell, I never told anyone until now. But after that, I swore I'd never babysit again. I was lying on the couch at about 1 a.m. with my girlfriend, watching The Village. It's a mildly scary movie, for those of you who haven't seen it. We've just gotten past a jump scare scene when, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something. The flashlight outside flickered on and immediately off, followed by the unmistakable sound of our back door clicking shut. My heart skipped a beat. I turned to my girlfriend. She gave me a quick nod. She heard it too. I don't consider myself easily spooked, but this was the kind of thing you never think will happen to you. I got up slowly, trying to make as little noise as possible. My girlfriend stayed frozen on the couch. I crept toward the kitchen, where the back door was. The only light spilling into the room was from the TV, casting long shadows on the walls. I couldn't see much beyond the dim outlines of the furniture. I took another step, crouching down to stay low as I made my way toward the fridge. I stopped. My breath caught in my throat. There, in the far corner of the kitchen, by the dining room table, stood a figure. A tall, thin silhouette, completely still, facing the wall. And I froze. For what felt like an eternity, I did not move a muscle. I just stared at the thing, unsure if my eyes were playing tricks on me, or if it was really someone, something, standing in my kitchen. My mind raced. Was this a break-in? Maybe, but no one just stands there like that. No one just faces the wall in complete silence. I wanted to call out, but my throat felt like it had closed up. I glanced back toward the doorway, hoping my girlfriend had come to check on me, but she was still in the living room. I turned back to the figure, and that's when I noticed it had turned around. It was now facing me. Two dull eyes stared back at me, unmoving. No blink, no expression, just two dark, hollow eyes and a shadowed face. I screamed. I bolted out of the kitchen, grabbing my girlfriend's arm so hard I nearly dragged her off the couch. I did not have time to explain. We ran to the bedroom, slammed the door behind us, and locked it. My chest felt like it was going to explode. I was gasping for air, and my girlfriend was half yelling, half whispering, demanding to know what was going on. I shushed her, unable to form words, still trying to process what I'd just seen. We sat there behind the bed for what felt like hours, but was probably no more than 10 minutes, listening, waiting. Every creak in the house made me jump, but there were no footsteps, no signs of movement from the kitchen. Once my heart stopped pounding, I pulled out my phone and called 911. My voice was shaky as I told them someone had broken into our house. I had no idea if they were armed, but I wasn't taking any chances. The operator said they'd sent someone right away. 5 minutes later, we heard a knock at the front door, and I hesitated, my heart racing again, but my girlfriend gave me that look. That kind of says, we have to check. The front door was just a few feet from the bedroom door. We opened it cautiously, expecting to see the cops. But there was no one. No police, no intruder, nothing. We stood in the open doorway, calling out. No response. Just the stillness of the night. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing on end. I could feel my nerves unraveling. I grabbed my girlfriend's hand, muttered something about getting back inside, and we bolted to the bedroom again, locking ourselves in. An hour passed before the police actually arrived. They knocked this time, hard and loud. We yelled through the door, telling them we were inside, and when we finally opened up, they went through the house, room by room. They found nothing. No signs of a break-in, no footprints, no damage to the back door, nothing. We did not sleep that night, and to this day, I still don't know what I saw in that kitchen. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me, but I swear, there was something there, and I have no idea how it vanished so completely. Last night, my friend and I were playing Modern Warfare 3 Warzone on Xbox like we usually do. We were deep into a match when things took a strange turn. His parents were out at some concert, so he had the house to himself. Or so he thought. In mid-game, he suddenly stops and says, "Dude, I think someone just broke into my house. I heard the front door open." Naturally, I thought he was messing with me. We joke around all the time, and this felt like another one of those moments. But then he goes quiet for a second, and when he comes back, he gives me his address, dead serious. "If anything happens, call 911, he says. At this point, I'm starting to feel uneasy. I've known him for years, and he's not the type to get scared over nothing. Still, I wasn't sure if he was messing with me or not. He then whispers into the mic that he's in the basement and hears footsteps on the floor above him. Whoever broke in was walking up to the second floor. He says he's going to hide, and I'm sitting there, controller in one hand and my phone in the other, ready to call the cops, but not wanting to overreact. I mean, there's a chance he's still screwing with me, right? Then, total silence. Minutes tick by, and I don't hear him breathe, move, nothing. I'm just sitting in the party chat, listening to the eerie silence from his end. A good 5 minutes go by before he finally comes back. He tells me he waited until the footsteps stopped, and when everything went quiet, he grabbed a baseball bat and slowly went upstairs to check things out. He was expecting to find someone in his house, but when he got to the main floor, no one was there. The front door, jimmied open. The back door, wide open too. And this is the part that really freaks me out. He swore both doors were locked when his parents left for the concert. Nothing was taken. No drawers had been opened. Nothing had been moved. And it was like someone broke in, walked through the house, and left without touching a single thing. I tell him to call the cops because, at this point, even if no one's there, this is not something to brush off. So he calls 911, and the police come by to check things out. They do a quick sweep of the house, check for fingerprints, the usual stuff, but they come up with absolutely nothing. No signs of forced entry, except for the messed up front door lock. No prints. No sign that anyone was even there. The police did not seem overly concerned. They told him it could have been someone checking to see if the house was empty and got spooked when they realized someone was home. They suggested he change the locks and keep an eye out for anything suspicious, but that was it. I can't get it out of my head. Someone was definitely in his house, but we have no clue who or why. It's been bothering both of us since it happened. The worst part is not knowing. What if it happens again? What if they come back? And what were they even looking for? When I was 15, my parents left me home alone with my grandmother. She was deep in the final stages of Alzheimer's by then, so far gone that she couldn't even move on her own. They'd gone out for some kind of emergency, leaving me to watch her for the night. I remember thinking, how hard could it be? She was basically bedridden, right? I knew she wasn't the same person she used to be. My grandma was an Italian singer back in the day. She told me stories of her youth, traveling and performing, but those memories were locked away somewhere now, replaced by a confused woman who couldn't even recognize her own reflection anymore. That night started off normal. I checked on her a few times, made sure she was comfortable. She did not respond to me at all, just laid there staring up at the ceiling. I could hear her labored breathing from the hallway, and it was slow and shallow, like she was barely there. I sat in the living room, flipping through the channels, trying to keep my mind off how creepy the whole situation felt. And it was around midnight when I heard the first scream. It was a sound so raw, so primal that I instantly yanked myself off the couch. I ran to her room, my heart slamming against my ribs. The screaming stopped the second I stepped through the door, and I stood there in the dark, only the dim light from the hallway casting a shadow on her motionless form. She started to sing. It wasn't the kind of singing I remembered from the old tapes my mom used to play. This was broken, garbled Italian, like she was chanting something ancient. Her voice cracked and trembled, and it wasn't in tune. It wasn't the beautiful opera voice she once had. It sounded like she was conjuring something. And I tried to talk to her, ask her what was going on, but she did not respond. Her eyes stayed fixed on the ceiling, her lips moving in that cracked, trembling voice. I backed out of the room and tried to convince myself it was just the Alzheimer's. Maybe she was reliving some moment from her past, a performance or something. But then it happened again. An hour later, the screaming. I ran back to her room. Same thing. The moment I stepped in, she started singing that strange, cracked Italian. I don't speak the language, but I could tell it wasn't anything normal. There was something dark in the way she said the words. It didn't feel right. This went on all night. She would scream, then sing, scream, then sing. Each time I ran to her room, my body would tense up, expecting something worse. But it was always just her, lying in bed, eyes wide open, singing like she was possessed. By morning, I was done. My nerves were shot, and I had not slept a minute. When my parents got home, I told them what happened. My mom laughed it off and said, "She's just confused. This happens sometimes." I expected my grandma to be catatonic like she'd been all night. But no, she was sitting up in the bed, talking to my parents like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't been screaming and singing in some eerie, ancient-sounding language all night long. She did not even acknowledge me when I tried to talk to her. I don't know what I experienced that night. Maybe it was just her disease playing tricks on me. But that singing, I still hear it sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. Fucking Alzheimer's.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Spooky. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you survived. If you did not know, I have an Instagram. Follow me on there so we can connect. I also have a Patreon. On there you'll have direct access to me and can see the upcoming videos, polls, and soon-to-be exclusive stories only shared on there. If that's something that interests you, please consider joining. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Stay spooky and I'll see you in the next video.